This is the perfect time to start a side hustle, and this is also the perfect time to start a podcast about starting a side hustle. Kick it. The dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. This is the Living My Side Hustle podcast.
Hey guys, this is Dave, just doing a little solo show today. Jen is at work, but I thought I'd jump on quick and share a book with you that I've been reading, and it's amazing. It's called Talk Triggers. It's by Baer and Daniel Lemin, and this is a book for anybody who's doing a side hustle and is trying to figure out the best way to get your brand, your story out there so people can connect with you and you can build your community. Now, every human on earth relies on word of mouth to make decisions in their life. As a business, if you can tap into word of mouth advertising, it will bring people to you. You will come up during conversations where people are sitting around the dinner table or over a drink, and they will start talking about you and what you do. That kind of advertising or being top of mind is really hard to do if you buy a radio ad. We tried that for our business. We tried radio ads. Yeah, it's exciting to hear your radio ad bumped up against your favorite song on the radio, but there's really no way to measure whether or not the radio commercial is actually impacting our business or drawing people through the door. So that's very hard. But when you can be the topic of conversation when you're not even in the room, that is probably one of the best ways that we have found for our side hustle to build that community and those super fans. So again, the book I'm reading is called Talk Triggers. Again, it's by Baer and Daniel Lemin. You can even listen to it on Audible. That's another way I like to listen to books when I'm working on my night shift. The book Talk Triggers really opened my eyes to the power of word of mouth. There are more than 30 detailed case studies in this book about how companies like, companies like the Cheesecake Factory, how Penn and Teller do their shows in Las Vegas, DoubleTree Hotels by Hilton, and the secret thing that they do in their business. There are so many great realistic stories of how businesses overcame a lack of knowledge about what they do and the lack of connection with an audience and what they did to address that. Take a look at the book. I'll put a link in the notes below and stuff for you guys to find a link to the book on Audible and also Amazon and everything. But really take a look at this, and I think you'll really enjoy going through and seeing more about how building a community and having people come alongside of you and understand your message and want to be actively involved in what you do and share your message. That word of mouth advertising is really, really effective. And we've seen it so many times in our small side hustle, how people will have a great experience with us and take it back to their home and to their families and their friends, to their businesses. And it has opened many, many, many doors for us. So there's 4 things that jumped out to me from the book. And I'll put these in the show notes for you as well. And a link to this so you can actually see it online. You can grab it right from the authors. It's a great resource. But they talk about 4 key requirements of any talk trigger. So there's 4 things, and they all start with R's, which is kind of easy to remember. But 4 key requirements of a talk trigger. So first, it must be remarkable, it must be relevant, it must be reasonable, and it must be repeatable. So I'll jump into those again. So it must be remarkable, it must be relevant, it must be reasonable, must be repeatable. These are the key elements to a talk trigger. And again, a talk trigger is simply, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? Okay, so number one, it's got to be remarkable. If it's not literally worth remarking on, it's not a talk trigger. Lower prices are rarely worth remarking on. It's almost commonplace. When stories begin with phrases like, you will never believe what just happened, or I was looking for this one thing and discovered the craziest thing, that's when you start to stand out. So number two, it's got to be relevant. Doing something just to get noticed isn't necessarily a talk trigger either. Changing the color of your packaging to lime green might be remarkable, but is it relevant in any way to the company, to your company, or to your side hustle, or your potential customers? Will it even be noticed? And number three, it must be reasonable. So if you do not sell iPads, why would you give out a free iPad to drum up business or eyeballs and attention for your company? So whatever you're going to be offering and using as a talk trigger to get people to talk about you should be reasonable and expected in a way. You're not going to give away some enormous gift. Everybody doesn't get a car. Sorry, Oprah. It doesn't happen every day. When you overpromise, or at least when customers perceive that you might be overpromising, it actually depresses the participation of people interacting with your promotionary campaign. So keep that in mind. It's got to be reasonable. So we talked about it's got to be remarkable, it's got to be relevant, it's got to be reasonable, and lastly, it's got to be repeatable. A one-time event, a one-time offer is not a talk trigger. It's a special event. For a talk trigger to stick, it has to be consistent. It can't just be on Saturdays. It can't just be between the hours of 1 and 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. It's got to be something that's available to everyone at all times, no matter what the experience. And you have to be devoid of all of the legal jargon that goes behind the scenes. Limited quantities, not available in all cities, short time offer, must be this person to receive the offer, you must be this tall to ride this ride. All of those things will reduce your talk trigger. So again, the book Talk Triggers, great book. I really enjoyed reading it. And there are just so many great stories in there and things that we're going to be applying to our business. As a side hustle, whether you're in your first week, your first day of planning, you've been in it for years, you've been struggling through, you have a full-time job, and you are still working through the process of whether or not this side hustle, if this side hustle is going to lead to something, or if it's going to be just something that remains a side hustle as an extra. But no matter what you do, you're operating a business. It might be just you. You might be the only one that's working in this side hustle, but you are a business. And the best way to grow a business is to build a community. So my advice, from looking back at Upcycle Canada and the things that we've built as a business since 2014, we have always tried to put ourselves out into the community and to be community focused, whether that's online, social media, on our website, through podcasts, through community events, through donations. We had a donation request today. Someone asked for a donation to a Stag and Doe. Seems small in a sense, but it does give us the chance to be talked about when we're not in the room. So yes, we do Stag and Doe gifts. We donate. We pay for it. And what happens is we bring the family into the store and we let them shop. We don't just give them an item that we want to give away. We let them pick something that means something to them. We've had people come in just out of curiosity into the store, and through conversation, we find out that they're on their way to a fundraiser for some very special event with significance in their life. And we offer right up there if we can donate to the event. and the look of astonishment on someone's face when you catch somebody by surprise. We're not doing it selfishly. We do want to give and we do want to participate. And that's our heart. That's how we do business. And that's how I'd encourage you. If you're thinking about starting a side hustle, if you have a side hustle and you want to grow your community, focus on building that community one person at a time, consistent, repeatable, and doing the things that you can do to make people talk about you. So I ask you, what is your talk trigger? Is it remarkable? Are people going to talk about it? Is it relevant? Does your talk trigger mean something to somebody other than you? Is it reasonable? Is it too grandiose that it seems unreal, fake? You know what a commercial feels like. Those are the things you hear when you get up to go to the fridge in between parts of your show and the commercials come on. When you're in your car and the radio's on and the commercials start, that's when you skip to the next channel to hear another song. We all know what a commercial is. Is your talk trigger, are you thinking at a commercial, or are you getting up there and talking about the benefits of your product? Is that a talk trigger? Is it repeatable? Is it something that's going to continue on and on and on with no limits? Think about talk triggers and think about how you can build your community. So one of my favorite talk triggers is Krispy Kreme donuts.
Donuts.
Now, Krispy Kreme came to Canada years ago, and we had them at gas station kiosks. We had stores, a bunch of stores in the area, and they've slowly dwindled in Canada down to a few stores here and there. But just outside Toronto, there is a Krispy Kreme, and when you drive by and that beautiful glowing red light is on outside, indicating that the donuts are being made right now, do you think that's a talk trigger? Okay, it is not every single moment of the day that you can get fresh donuts right off the line, but when that light comes on, you got to know that talk trigger is working for me. I'm going to swing into that parking lot. I'm going to buy 4 dozen donuts and probably inhale most of them by myself. Talk triggers work. I'm asking you what yours is. And I'm challenging you as you build a side hustle, as you take your side hustle from an idea into practical steps, and you work your way towards something that's going to be meaningful, not only for you, because it has to be meaningful for you. Otherwise, it's a hobby. It has to be meaningful for you, but it has to be meaningful for your audience. How are you going to reach them? How can you be consistent? And what are people going to say about you when you're not in the room? Talk triggers. Great book. I really encourage you to go take a look at it. And again, all the links will be in the show notes. Thanks, guys, for listening. And go over to livingmysidehustle.com. You'll see more about our podcast. You'll see more about Jen and I and all of the great things that are coming up. We have some really good interviews coming up, and we're excited to share more and more about those people out there who have decided that they have something and they want to share it with the world. If that's you, and you want to share your story here on Living My Side Hustle, I'd love to hear from you. Jen would love to hear from you. And let's grow this community together, all right? So I hope that when you close off this podcast, you'll talk about this to somebody and prove to you and prove to me that talk triggers do work. Thanks, guys. Have an awesome, awesome day.